Could North Macedonia be about to abandon its landmark peace agreement with Greece? In May 2024, a diplomatic row erupted when the country's new president insisted on using the country's old name during her inauguration. As the Greek ambassador walked out of the ceremony in protest, Greek and European officials stressed that the agreement with Athens is central to the country's future EU integration process. So, could North Macedonia really be about to ditch its deal with Greece? Hello and welcome. If you're new to the channel, my name is James Ker-Lindsay, and here I take an informed look at international relations, conflict, security and statehood. Peace agreements are a central feature of international relations, often reached after complex and lengthy negotiations organised by third parties. They're not only essential for ending armed conflicts, but can also prevent disputes from escalating. Needless to say, there's an expectation that once the sides do reach an agreement, they'll stick to it. While differences will sometimes arise and peace deals occasionally require some renegotiation, the understanding is that the fundamental terms and principles of the deal will remain unchallenged. Indeed, the faithful execution of peace agreements is a cornerstone of modern diplomacy. However, sometimes countries do abandon peace treaties. One potential example on the horizon is North Macedonia. Having reached a landmark agreement with Greece in 2018 that ended a 30-year dispute, there are fears that the country's new government may be preparing to turn its back on the arrangement. The Republic of North Macedonia is a landlocked country in southeast Europe. Covering an area of around 26,000 square kilometres or 10,000 square miles, its neighbours include Albania to its west, Kosovo to its northwest, Serbia to its north, and Bulgaria to the east. Greece lies to the country's south. The population is approximately 2.1 million. The majority are ethnic Macedonians who speak a South Slavic language, followed by a significant Albanian community. There are also Turkish, Romani, Serbian and Bosniak minorities. Macedonia has an extraordinarily long and rich history. Having emerged as a kingdom on the periphery of ancient Greece, under Alexander the Great it expanded its imperial control as far as India to the east and Egypt to the south. This Hellenistic period lasted until it became part of the Roman Empire around 150 BC. While it would later fall under Bulgarian and Serb rule, in the 14th century it was conquered by the Ottoman Empire. This lasted until the 20th century. In 1912, Greece, Serbia and Bulgaria joined forces to seize Macedonia from Ottoman Turkish rule in the First Balkan War. However, their alliance was short-lived. Following disagreements over the territorial split, a Second Balkan War broke out. In 1913, Macedonia was formally partitioned between Serbia, Bulgaria and Greece. After the First World War, Serbian-held Macedonia became part of the Kingdom of Yugoslavia. This lasted until the end of the Second World War. As Yugoslavia was constituted as a socialist federation, Macedonia became one of the 6 constituent republics, alongside Bosnia, Croatia, Montenegro, Serbia and Slovenia. Over the following decades, the Yugoslav authorities took steps to foster a distinct Macedonian identity. All this would come to a head in the early 1990s with the collapse of Yugoslavia. As the country dissolved and Slovenia, Croatia and Bosnia broke away, Macedonia declared independence on the 8th of December 1991. From the start, Greece objected to the country's name, the Republic of Macedonia. In addition to arguing that the new state was laying claim to its region of Macedonia, Athens also insisted that it was usurping the region's historical Greek identity by adopting symbols linked to the ancient Hellenistic region of Macedonia. Having secured support from its EU partners, Greece ensured that when the new country joined the UN in April 1993, it did so under a provisional name, the former Yugoslav Republic of Macedonia, or FYROM. Following this, the UN launched a process to try to resolve the name issue. This led to an interim agreement in 1995. In return for the Macedonian government agreeing to change many of the state's most contentious symbols, the Greek government promised not to obstruct its efforts to join various international organisations. But despite hopes that this would open the way for a final agreement, efforts to resolve the so-called name issue continued without success over the next 2 decades. Aside from their differences over the country's title, talks were hampered by how to describe the country's language and its inhabitants, with Greece firmly objecting to the term Macedonian. There was also a question about whether the state could use one name internally and another internationally. As a result, relations between the sides steadily deteriorated, as Athens blocked the country's efforts to join NATO and the European Union, leading to a case before the International Court of Justice. The Macedonian government made even more claims to the country's ancient Greek heritage, such as naming the main national airport and the country's highway after Alexander the Great. Ultimately, the breakthrough came in 2017. The election of a new government in Skopje, which was determined to see the country join NATO and the European Union, coincided with an administration in Greece that also wanted to resolve the issue. Following intensive discussions, the sides reached a deal the following year. Having explored various options, such as New Macedonia and Upper Macedonia, they agreed that the country would be renamed the Republic of North Macedonia, and that this would be used in all circumstances, both domestically and internationally. As for the other elements, the country's language would remain Macedonian. Likewise, while the country's inhabitants would officially be called citizens of the Republic of North Macedonia, they could continue to call themselves Macedonians. Finally, the deal explicitly recognised the country's distinct Greek and Slavic heritage. With all this agreed, the two countries signed an agreement at an international ceremony at their border on the shores of Lake Prespa on the 17th of June 2018. While the wider international community hailed the Prespa Agreement as an essential step forward for the two countries and a positive development for the wider Balkan region, it faced considerable opposition in both countries. In North Macedonia, it sparked widespread anger and led to a highly controversial ratification process. While the main Albanian political parties accepted the deal, the right-wing opposition party, the VMRO-DPMNE, rejected what they saw as a fundamental betrayal of the country's identity brought about by outside pressure. This came to a head when the agreement was put to the public in a referendum in September 2018. Although the deal won a majority, the vote failed to meet the required turnout threshold to pass. Despite this, it was nevertheless put to the Parliament. On the 11th of January 2019, amidst accusation of bribery, blackmail and external pressure, it secured 81 votes in the 120-member Assembly, thus scraping through with the two-thirds support required to make the constitutional changes needed under the terms of the deal. Likewise, while many in Greece rejected the deal, seen as an unacceptable compromise on Greek heritage and identity, the agreement passed in the Greek Parliament, securing 153 votes in the 300-member Assembly. On the 14th of February 2019, the United Nations announced that it had been officially informed of the name change. The former Yugoslav Republic of Macedonia was now the Republic of North Macedonia. Although the deal was widely hailed as a significant step forward, it produced mixed results. On the one hand, it opened the way for North Macedonia to join NATO, becoming the organisation's 30th member on the 27th of March 2020. However, hopes that it would unlock the country's EU accession prospects were premature. While Greece dropped its veto over integration, Bulgaria now stepped in with various demands of its own. Meanwhile, the agreement remained controversial in both countries. But while the main Greek opposition party, New Democracy, opposed the arrangement, it took a pragmatic position. When it returned to power just months after the deal, it announced that it wouldn't challenge it. This stood in marked contrast to the main opposition in North Macedonia, which continued to vehemently oppose the agreement. And it's this that sparked the latest crisis. On the 8th of May 2024, North Macedonia went to the polls for parliamentary and presidential elections. The VMRO-DPMNE won a massive victory in both contests. In the Assembly, it secured 58 seats, just 3 members short of an outright majority. Meanwhile, in the race for the largely ceremonial presidency, the party's candidate, Gordana Siljanovska-Davkova, a constitutional law professor, won a convincing victory over the incumbent, securing 2/3 of the vote in the second round. Just days later, on the 12th of May, she was sworn into office at a ceremony at the Parliament. Having argued during her campaign that the Prespa Agreement was contrary to national law and violated the rights of the country's citizens, she used the occasion to make her point. Refusing to repeat the official oath of office using the term Republic of North Macedonia, she instead used Republic of Macedonia. The decision sparked an immediate response. As the Greek ambassador left the ceremony in protest, the Greek Foreign Ministry issued a statement condemning the move as a violation of the Prespa Agreement. Meanwhile, within hours, the EU had also stepped in. Senior officials stressed that the country's progress towards full European integration depended on adherence to the agreement with Greece. Of course, the main question at this stage is whether this was merely a provocative step by the new president acting personally, or whether it suggests that the new government in Skopje will formally revoke the agreement. On balance, it seems unlikely that the government will try to abandon the Prespa Agreement. To start with, it would immediately halt any further EU accession talks. Apart from renewed Greek opposition to membership negotiations, many other EU members would also oppose such a provocative step. Moreover, given that VMRO-DPMNE and even the new president have insisted that EU accession remains a core goal for the country, it's hard to see how the government could balance these two fundamentally opposing policies. Then again, many in North Macedonia would argue that the prospects of EU accession are now so dim that it doesn't really matter. It might as well abandon the despised agreement. Ultimately, though, the deal may be saved by internal politics. As much as the new government may hate the Prespa Agreement, it'll need support to get a constitutional change through. While the new government may object to the name and will continue to question the Prespa Agreement, it seems unlikely to formally break the deal. Nevertheless, it could still undermine it in other ways. For example, it could refer to the Republic of Macedonia in statements and documents. This will inevitably create problems. By going against the spirit of the agreement, if not the letter of the deal, Greece and the EU may feel obliged to push back. In this sense, despite hopes that the Macedonian name issue had finally been settled, the dispute now seems to be back on the agenda. I hope you found that helpful. If so, here are some more videos that you might find interesting. Thanks so much for watching, and see you in the next video.